Good afternoon. Welcome to this Renfrew County Housing Corporation meeting. I'd like to call it to order for Wednesday, August 16th. It is 1 o'clock. As we gather this afternoon, I would like to acknowledge on behalf of Council and our community that we are meeting on the traditional territory of the Algonquin people. We would like to thank the Algonquin people and express our respect and support for their rich history, and we are extremely grateful for their many and continued displays of friendship. We also thank all the generations of people who have taken care of this land for thousands of years. Roll call, please.
Roll has been taken and we have quorum.
Quorum, thank you. Any disclosures of pecuniary interest and general nature thereof? Seeing none. Could I get a mover and a seconder for the adoption of the minutes of the previous meeting held on June 14th, 2023? Moved by the member from Head Clare Mariah, seconded by member from Whitewater Region. All in favor? Thank you. There are no delegations at this time. We will go to the director's report, please.
Good afternoon, members of Renfrew County Housing Board of Directors. It's nice to be back in these chambers again. My report, which begins on page 2 of your package, is very short. I am providing an information update on our community housing capital projects update. So you'll see on the chart that's attached that we have a list of all of our projects that are over $50,000 that were approved as part of the budget process and where they are in terms of completion or being started. And you can see that for the most part, we're on track. We have a few tenders that are going to go out in September, but for the most part, things are moving quite well. And that completes my report at this time. Thank you.
Okay, are there any questions on that? I have one question, actually. So when you say something is done in-house, what does that mean?
Sorry, Chair. In-house?
Yeah, just I'll find where it does. So the very first one, 75 Stafford, work started, no contract, majority of work being done in-house.
Okay, thank you, Chair. I do have my colleague, Jason Davis, from Development of Property. He can speak to that more directly. I think it might be more appropriate if you speak to Jason. Thank you.
Thank you. Jason?
If I may, Chair, and good afternoon, everyone. So when you talk about in-house, we do have field staff that can do a number of these items in-house. So instead of contracting out to an outside services, it's the field staff that do these services. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, any other questions or comments? None. Could I get a mover and a seconder to accept this report, please? Moved by Whitewater Region, seconded by Town of Petawawa. All in favor? Carried. Okay, next is our Manager of Housing and Homelessness monthly report, please.
Thank you. Good morning, Renfrew County Housing Corporation Board of Directors, good afternoon. The manager's report starts on page 4 of your package, and it starts with information item number 1, which is the annual general report for 2022. In the annual general report, we will find that information is summarized from our program accomplishments over the last year. Much of this information was represented within the board reports presented during 2022. As we continue to move forward with the business of 2023 and upcoming years, we can look back at 2022 as a year of transition that has set some important groundwork for future plans that will continue to culminate with a new 10-year housing and homelessness plan that will address current community housing stock viability, affordable housing, the development of additional units, as well as the community engagement to ensure that program designs continue to meet community needs. Thank you to the board, to our senior leadership team of directors and the CAO, and the Renfrew County Housing Corporation staff, whose dedicated work ensured that essential services were provided. Information item 2 is the treasurer's report. And the report is a reflection of our expenses up to June 2023. It's a mid-year report. And at this time, we have no anomalies or concerns to bring to the attention of the board. Moving forward is information item number 3, which provides an update regarding 260 Elizabeth Street in Pembroke. This property is the home for 60 residents in the city of Pembroke. And during February 2023, I brought information to the board to inform of a safety strategy that we were looking to implement at that property. We have done that and continue to have that in place with the assistance of ProTech 5 that provides daily security guard services at that building. And we have continued on, as the months have passed, to develop relationships with the Ontario Provincial Police, as well as other community support agencies, to help bring essential services to the residents at that building, with the purpose of hoping to, and I think we are achieving it, to provide affordable and safe housing to that population. Most recently in our strategy, we have been focused on increasing tenant engagement. And a recent activity occurred over on July 12th, 2023, where we invited representatives from the city of Pembroke to speak about their Community Watch program to the residents. We were pleased with the attendance and interest from residents, and through that meeting, we were able to get a lot of engagement and a volunteer to actually take the lead as a community captain. Quickly, that community captain was able to survey tenants at the property and report back to me that they had over 51% over the number required to continue with the Community Watch program. So that information was reported to the City of Pembroke representatives, and Mayor Gervais will be meeting with the Police Services Board to put the strategy in action, and we are soon hoping to see Community Watch signs up, as well as continued meetings with the tenants, and just a really engaged, proactive approach to helping tenants, feel at home and that their voice is heard, and that some of the matters that are pressing are being addressed immediately. The next part of the report is information item number 4, and this is where we get a snapshot of our community housing registry wait list. So you'll see that at the end of the second quarter, so as of June, that our cumulative applications were at 1423, and we are continuing to see an uprising trend with waitlist. And I'll mention that this housing registry waitlist is the intake way that we are able to determine who is eligible for rent geared to income housing. That's at the Renfrew County Housing Corporation properties, as well as other programs that are offered through community housing, including supplements within the private market that also provide rent geared to income, and rent allowance programs. If we follow on to the next chart, we'll see that the highest percentage of need is reflected for one and the one bedroom category. We get many applications of single people or couples looking for one bedrooms, and in some communities, Pembroke, for example, the wait list is 7 to 10 years. Information item number 5 provides a summary of the move-in and move-out, as well as internal transfers that occurred at Renfrew County Housing Corporation properties in the second quarter. And we'll see that the rate of move out and move in is not high enough to be able to bring down the wait list as quickly as we would like to see that happen. Also, when we take a look over at these numbers for move-ins, move-outs, and transfers, it also provides us with an understanding of the work that's being done over in the field by maintenance staff who are doing the necessary repairs to be able to turn over units to new tenants. Information item 6 provides a summary of activity regarding landlord and tenant board notices and applications. And we'll see that the N4 notices, which is a notice for non-payment of rent, those are sent to tenants whenever rent is late, more than several days. And once that letter is sent, then staff begin communicating with the tenants to ensure that payments come into the office. Information item 7 provides a summary of program performance for the homelessness prevention program. For your reference is a table that shows our overall budget. And then as we move along in the report, we'll see the performance for the various programs, starting with the Strong Communities Rent Supplement Program. So that provides the rent geared to income in the private market. And the number of ongoing subsidies as of June was 21. And the expenditure was $33,588, and we're actively seeking additional units to bring this number up. The Emergency Minor Home Repairs Program. This program provides up to $7,500 to low-income homeowners for essential repairs. And the number of applications that were approved during the fourth quarter was 4. And the expenditure for that quarter was just under $20,000. And I just wanted to comment that as of August 1st, we had 3 additional repairs in the queue, plus 4 pending repair starts. So there has been a slower than anticipated uptake of this program, but we are still actively receiving applications. The Rent Allowance Program, this is a very important program that provides an allowance of up to $300 for households without children and up to $400 for households with children. This program is issued through the centralized housing wait list. The people that are eligible for this program are ones that have been waiting for a considerable amount of time. In most instances, they've been waiting for 5 or more years for an affordable housing option. So we go backwards with the chronicity, and we reach out to applicants that way. The average ongoing allowances were 110 households without children and 48 households with children, and the second quarter expenditure was just over $138,000. The Homelessness Prevention Program, which we also refer to as the Emergency Assistance Program that Ontario Work staff delivers to the community, provides financial assistance for a variety of items, $1,500 within the year for households without children and $2,000 within the year for households with children. And for the second quarter, there were 365 households assisted. And the second quarter expenditure was just over $253,000. We have fully utilized our target for as of the second quarter. The next item is information item, which includes 2 attachments, Appendix 4 and Appendix 5, that provides information regarding the status of Renfrew County Housing Corporation arrears. Before we take a look over at the rears, I would like to advise the board that we were successful at recruiting an internal candidate for the community housing coordinator position that was recently approved by the board. The internal candidate comes from our housing division, and her name is Wendy Hebert, and we were happy that she was able to start in her new position last week. We are currently in the process of recruiting her replacement and hope to have information about that by the end of this month. In examining both of the arrears reports, you again will find that I'm bringing forward the same information as I have in previous months, that we are continuing to have an increase in the amount of arrears that are shown. We've had some really helpful conversations just over the last 2 weeks with our new recruit, Wendy, along with the housing supervisor and myself. And we're putting strategies in place to quickly implement and bring to the attention of the board for approval first, policies that will address the way that arrears are handled, and hopefully within that strategies that will reduce the arrears. One of the strategies that we're looking at is proposing a policy that will reduce arrears once information that's missing is submitted by the tenants. So a common examples of information that could be missing from an annual information review could be income tax information, other financial information, updates about family composition, and so forth. Unfortunately, when information is missing for an extended period of time, some households will have their rent increased to the market amount, even though they may have continued to receive a supplement amount if the information would have been submitted. So we want to be proactive in supporting tenants to be able to have some financial relief once they get on track in submitting the outstanding information, and looking to have the new arrears policy essentially write off the accumulated difference between subsidy and market amount once the missing information is submitted. So within the next 2 months, we will be bringing something to the board with a recommendation about arrears that will provide some more details to that effect. Next, we have information or resolution item number 9, and this is the Strategic Housing and Homelessness Plan. Okay.
Sorry, we'll go back to the first information item, and I gotta find it. Okay, so are there any questions or comments on the annual general report? This is a great report. I found it very informative, very interesting, a lot of good information in there, a good resource for sure. Well done on that. Anything on number 2, Treasurer's Report? No, number 3, Community Watch Program at 260 Elizabeth Street, Pembroke. This, where's, Councillor from Petawawa, please.
Thank you, Chair. Through you, just a question about the Community Watch Program. It's great to hear that it's been implemented. So it's been in since February or March. Has there been any evidence of it decreasing the number of incidents or lessening the amount of crime that's been taking place?
Go ahead, please.
Thank you. Through you, Chair, to the board. The Community Watch Program has yet to be completely implemented. That program is connected with the Pembroke Police Services Board, and it's my understanding that that board is still to meet and respond back to us to confirm that the program is moving forward, and one of the first things we'll see is the put up of signs around the property to show that it is a community watch zone, and then some meetings with the tenants and the captain to get organized or to further organize. The strategy that we've had put in place since the beginning of January, that was reported in February, started off with having a security focus. So as of January, we hired Protect 5 to provide daily security and monitoring services, and that has it's provided incredible impact. The interventions that have been provided by security guards have helped people in some very vulnerable moments, have helped in preventing crime or quickly intervening when there was evidence of concern. The security guards have been very proactive in developing their relationships with the OPP as well, and relationships with the tenants as well, so that there's good communication and comfort. And most notably, we have seen a significant decrease in the number of serious occurrences. Property damage has declined incredibly. That's one of the most notable. And also also notable would be just like the serious issues that would happen on the property. So although there's more work to happen, and that work really is, with the tenants, so that they continue to feel, engaged and safe at their home. I think our initial intentions, have been accomplished, but we need to hold the course and continue on with the security.
Paulo? Well, that's good to hear that the people that are living in that facility, that their lives have become a lot less stressful. Yeah, so that was a good proactive move. Thanks.
I have one question, Jennifer. So would this apply, the community watch, would it apply for that area only, or does it expand further? And is there one already in existence in Pembroke at all?
Yes, thank you, Chair. As a response to you and the board, there is a community watch program in existence already within Pembroke. It's my understanding that there's already, I think, 3 or 4 community watch zones that have been established. 260 Elizabeth is a unique situation in that it's the first apartment in the city of Pembroke that is being designated as a community watch zone. And the reason for that is because of the number of households within that area. So there's 60 units within that apartment. It's my understanding that the City of Pembroke representatives are looking forward to working with the tenants at 260 Elizabeth and the captain to also expand that zone outside of the 260 Elizabeth Street property. So on, upwards on Elizabeth Street and also on Catherine Street, they have an area in mind that they're looking to reach out to other residents to include.
Thank you. Any other questions on item 3? Oh, Councillor from Whitewater, please.
Yeah, I'll echo from the Mayor of Petawawa. I think an excellent way for us to help empower the residents that live in those communities, especially through this Community Watch program. It puts the power back in their hands. And I'm glad to see the partnership with the OPP detachment. My curiosity piques, though, wondering if this can be also replicated in other community housing properties that we have in other OPP detachment areas, such as Renfrew. And I don't know, or I can't even guess if that exists, but if it is and this is successful, I would encourage us to replicate it, work with the 2 or 3 detachments within Renfrew County, and ensure that this is an opportunity for any of our community housing.
Thank you. Through you, Chair, an additional comment to the board. about the Community Watch program. It's early yet. The first step is to establish a program at 260 Elizabeth Street. We've already commenced talks with the City of Pembroke representatives to extend that out to the properties that we have at McKay Street and River Road in the upcoming months. We're also in the process of evaluating community watch programs or similar programs, perhaps with different names, within the other communities in Renfrew County. There have been conversations with the caseworkers to identify any communities of housing that they feel might need this additional assistance. So yes, I'm happy to have that support to continue on with that, and it's something that we are looking at.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions on item 3? Then item 4, the 2023 second quarter community housing registry wait list. Councillor from Whitewater, please.
Thank you, Chair. And it's just a question. The bedroom size requests where we see an adult demand for single bedrooms of 871. Is there any additional information on demographics for that 871 that we might be able to share with the committee?
Go ahead, please.
Thank you. Through you, Chair, to the board. So the 871 adults that are waiting a placement in a single bedroom, those would be people who are under the age of 65. And just ahead over in the first, the road column just to the left of that number, we'll see that we have senior applicants also requiring the one bedroom, and that number is at 76. And senior for Renfrew County Housing Corporation purposes is 65 or higher.
Any other questions on that? Seeing none, item number 5, 2023 second quarter move-ins, move-outs, and internal transfers comparison. Number 6, the 2023 second quarter landlord and tenant board notices and applications. Item number 7, 2023 second quarter homelessness prevention program. Councillor from Petawawa, please.
Thank you, Chair. Through you. And I know we've discussed this in the past about our vulnerable population, and although there are a lot of supports in place to help assist them, it just seems to me that it's complicated. And I know if there's any way we can advocate with the province into somehow simplifying the methods that they have to go through to seek this assistance. I mean, it's great that all these different programs are in place, and I know I've mentioned this before, but if it was simplified for them, and I think you mentioned that because of some missing information on arrears, that caused some of their rent to increase to market value. So it just seems to me another step where they have to submit information, and if they don't, it causes a negative impact on them. So I don't know what the solution is, whether it's a living wage where you get one bucket of money and that should help you subsist. But in just looking at this list and all these different programs, it just seems cumbersome for all of these vulnerable people to have to fill out all these applications and go through all of this in order to survive. So I don't know what the solution is, and it's not really a question that I have, but it seems to me there should be something that we can do to simplify this.
Yes, Director Lupine, please.
Thank you, Chair, and through you to the board. I think that's a very important comment that you've made. We have in previous committees and councils discussed the basic income pilot that was suggested, which is a similar living wage kind of program in past years, and it certainly has been a topic for this council or previous council. I would also mention that we have several programs that we do offer, and I know Jennifer can speak in more detail about the programs, but it is part of our process to ensure that when somebody comes through to us, that our staff are quickly triaging what programs are best offered to them so that we take that lead role. And I think, Jennifer can speak more about that in terms of the annual report, where we have done some restructuring within our programs to ensure that every person that comes through our housing door has a caseworker that can help them identify what they need right away and talk about the different kind of programs. And maybe I could pass that over to Jennifer to speak more about that. Thank you.
Yes, please, Jennifer.
Thank you, through you, Chair, to the board. A few things that I wanted to touch on is our Community Services Department integrated human service approach, as well as our continued commitment to strive forward and question practices and propose and implement streamlined solutions. Regarding our integrated approach within community services, even though we have our different divisions, when it comes to working at the client-facing level, our staff from our 3 programs, although experts in their core areas, also have great knowledge in all 3 programs. And that definitely improves the client experience with service when trying to navigate what do I qualify for. So for example, somebody may have a point of entry with Ontario Works. The Ontario Works agent will know what the application or the information requirements are for the various housing programs, and then do a smooth transition or a soft, handover to their colleague that could be sitting at the desk next to them from housing. So we work internally to smooth the bumps regarding some of these systemic challenges that people can face. As far as information requirements, for example, if somebody from Ontario Works needed to submit information there and the housing department, had access to that information with the client's consent, we seamlessly, share that information. So that definitely helps. Regarding our approach to always evaluating, practices through that. Within the next 2 months, I do hope to bring proposal to the board. And when we're looking at the example of arrears, ways to remove some of the red tape and to make decisions that make sense, that come from a focus of supporting folks and not having information be the crux of what they might experience with us. So those are things that are constantly within the works at Community Services.
Supplemental?
Yeah, thanks. Thanks for all that information, Jennifer. And I'm sure your staff has expertise and knowledge, and you're doing the best you can within the system that you've been given to work in. So I think it's great that you're providing the best assistance you can to all of the folks that are using these assistants. But it just seems to me that something else needs to be done, sent down from the top, and to simplify your lives and all of the lives of all of our vulnerable population.
Thank you for that. Okay, any other comments? Okay. Information item number 8, 2023 second quarter Renfrew County Housing Corporation rent arrears. There are 2 reports there. Any comments? Oh. None? Okay, continue on with resolutions, please.
Thank you. The first resolution starts with item number 9, which is the Strategic Housing and Homelessness Plan. May I go ahead and read the recommendation?
Yes, please.
The recommendation is that the Renfrew County Housing Corporation Board of Directors approve staff to commence a strategic housing and homelessness plan that will provide objectives for the next 10 years in the following key areas. the maintenance and revitalization of Renfrew County Housing Corporation housing stock, the continued support to maintain the viability of nonprofit housing stock, fostering the development of additional affordable housing, new construction or the conversion of non-residential buildings into residential units, funding plans that will increase private market rent affordability through rent allowance, set monthly rate, and rent supplement, rent geared to income programs, community partner engagement to ensure that homelessness prevention programs meet community needs, supportive housing services within the RCHC portfolio for tenants that require additional supports to continue living independently. May I read the background?
Yeah, could I get a mover and a seconder to bring this on the floor? Moved by Warden Nemon, seconded by the councillor from Head Clare Mariah. All in favor? Carried. Yes, continue with the background.
Thank you. Through you, Chair, to the board. So some additional information to supplement would be that Section 6 of the Housing Services Act requires service managers to write a plan to address housing and homelessness that is for a period of at least 10 years. The initial plan for the County of Renfrew was adopted in 2013. There was an update in 2019 and then another update in 2021. We anticipate that this new plan may take upwards of 6 months to complete, and there is a recommendation, as within previous years, that we look to engage an external party to help coordinate the necessary research, community engagement, and authoring of the plan. The new housing and homelessness plan will be an important tool for setting a vision and clear objectives to guide decisions regarding future budgets and investment plans.
Are there any questions or comments on this? Warden Nemon, please.
Thank you very much. I really like this, and if I could make just one sort of editorial suggestion, the second last bullet, after needs, if you could insert a comma and consider working with or working to ensure clients with needs have wraparound services, because I think that, you know, I think that's the intent in here, but I you know, it might be better off if we state it, and I think the director and myself, you know, when we attended that homelessness symposium, that was one of the things that was driven home in 21 of 22 presentations was the need for wraparound services, community services. So if you can, some kind of a wording around that, I think that bullet point, just expanding it with a comma and some words would drive that message home. Thank you. But other than that, I really like the outline and the bullet points and the direction.
Okay, any other comments? Councillor from Whitewater, please.
Thank you, Chair. I think this is a great strategy, and I hope that we can invest a lot of good time and effort into it. When I read point number 3, and it said fostering the development of additional housing, my first instinct is I'd rather have a measurable plan. We know we have outstanding wait list of 1,423 applicants. But rather than foster, can we have a plan to build or to satisfy 1,000 of those 1,400 in the next 10 years? And that would then give us something to try to finance or seek support to achieve, whether that's be through new construction or conversion. But my instinct is, and I'd look for staff input, is let's put KPIs in this and let's manage it. What numbers are we going for? Can we fund those? Where do we find the funding? Where are we going to build them?
We will, yes, Director Lapine, please.
Thank you, Chair, and through you to the board. When we did our last housing or community housing plan, which was 10 years ago, gosh, 10 years ago now at least, the consultant it takes several months because there's lots of data to mine. So what you see in front of you is kind of an outline. what we want the plan to come back with is an identification based on demographics, based on all the information that they can have, because we, at this point in time, don't have that. We don't have enough information to put that out there. Our goal is, when we have a plan to bring forward to the board, and in the past, the consultant brings it to the board, does a presentation, we'll actually, in the past and most likely in the next, would interview the board as well to really have a sense as to your vision and goal, and then build it from there. But it is our intention to have some tangible numbers as part of the plan, because the last plan did not speak to very specific numbers, and we do feel that that's an important step. So duly noted. I think we're reluctant to put numbers in at this point in time because of where we are with housing, and it is a much bigger situation than it was even 2 years ago. I hope that helps. We kind of like to hire an expert that can kind of compare us as well to other communities, so that, and also work with what's happening with the Eastern Ontario Wardens Caucus and their 7 and 7 plans. So kind of building all of that together, and to see with the multiple different levels of funding what's out there and what we can look to kind of work towards, and then bring back here where we have some decision making. Does that help?
You have more? Okay. Supplementary, please.
Thank you, and it's good. I can appreciate looking for the numbers. I just really want to make sure that we come back with a plan, and fostering to me isn't the plan. It's, we're going to work hard to work with people. So that one word I'm stuck on is you're not proposing a plan back to committee and council to improve the housing situation over the next 10 years. So I'll take the staff advice on that, or how Craig wants to look at it. But Chair, back to you. Thank you.
Any comments on this one? Any response? Jennifer, please.
Thank you, through you, Chair, to the board. I think some excellent advice as far as changing the wording, and most certainly we can change the word fostering to something that will give a sense that we are striving towards a measurement that we will then step forward in the next 10 years to accomplish. So something to the effect of develop additional affordable housing through the consultation of a consultant to specify the number of units that we should strive towards in this plan. So I don't have the words perfectly formulated right now, but I do agree with the recommendation.
Did you want to comment, Mr. Kelly, please?
I seem to always want to. Thank you, Chair, and through you. So, to acknowledge your comment, some of our colleagues in the county, and we've been through this with the 7 and 7, and actually just as recently as yesterday, or Monday, whatever day of the week it is, we've had a conversation about rental units, and we've had a conversation about data mining. Part of it came out of the DMP report, new subdivisions coming on board or coming online. Some of them have suggested anywhere from 44 new units in Barry's Bay to 150 in Petawawa, right? So the comment we had internally was, well, with all the subdivisions coming online, what demand are we meeting? Are there more rental units? Likely all not affordable, okay, I get it, but at least they're rental units. But your point about numbers, again, our colleagues in some other housing corporations or other housing managers have numbers. They have real numbers in their plans. You know, Hastings County will build X number of houses in the year. We have not been given the direction or really had the real fulsome conversation with this council on finding dollars. You've seen our financial plan for the next X number of years. We do not have extra dollars to build new homes, period. If you, as a council, decide that we're in the business of building another 200 units, we'll have to know that and have to find the money somewhere, right? So I think that maybe not the word fostering, but the word is working, and you've seen, hopefully, a resolution out of yesterday's DMP that we're moving forward on using some of our surplus lands, or at least examining county-owned lands, maybe municipally owned lands, on working with nonprofits and other housing providers on utilizing our lands more effectively for affordable housing or just housing in general. I think as staff have noted, your comments have noted, but we really don't have direction to build more than the 1,000 units we have, other than the 12 we're building in Pembroke at the moment, and currently no funding, right? So that's kind of my 2 cents towards it all. So I think that this plan will formulate something. And I think that if we provide feedback from this council, which I think there's a part of this, is that we'll seek feedback from this council. If it suggested or recommended that we consider building more and adding to our stock, then we will take that direction at that time. So open for comments.
Councillor Nicholson? No? Okay, Councillor from Petawawa, please.
Thank you, Chair, through you. And thanks, Greg, for your comment. It always comes down to a financial crunch in the end. There are lots of good ideas and solutions, but in the end, we need the funding in order to implement those solutions. And I think a lot of times the lower tier looks to the upper tier of the county because community housing falls under your mandate. So it seems to me that a lot of times the lower tier looks to the county to solve all of the problems in terms of community housing and affordable housing, when sometimes it may have to trickle down to the lower tier and for us to have some of the responsibility. So recently the federal government announced that Housing Accelerator Fund, $4 billion, and municipalities had the opportunity to apply. So the town of Petawawa applied to this Housing Accelerator Fund, and if you're successful, you get and it depends how much funding you will be given, but you'll have the opportunity to provide subsidies to developers to include attainable or affordable housing in their apartment developments or in their townhouse developments. So that's available to any municipality right now in the country. Yeah, not the upper tier, of course, which is my point. So what I'm saying is maybe sometimes the burden has to trickle down and land onto the lower tier municipality, and to take steps to provide to our residents some affordable units. So what you can do with this is say to a developer who's building a townhouse, we'll give you a subsidy if you put a secondary unit within the basement or upper floor of this townhouse, and with the proviso that it's an affordable or an attainable rent. So there are solutions in other areas, but I get your point. It all comes down to the financial crunch in the end.
Any more follow-up? Councillor from Whitewater, please.
Thank you, Chair. And a great discussion. And I think we need to have more discussions like this because it's going to help inform not just us, but other members of the public and other organizations. And I can appreciate both the CAO's comments and the mayor's comments. When I take a look at this specific plan that council is going to adopt at some point, it's kind of a chicken and egg. Does the plan propose to council to do the investment, or does council have to direct them to build a plan to include the investment in this specific case? And I'm open to whichever, but with the clear acknowledgement that if we don't, we are the ones in terms of managing this social housing piece. If we don't decide to build, no one else is going to decide to build social housing. Yes, the lower tiers can find ways to make affordable housing available, but this type of housing that the housing corporation does, that's us. So again, it's a discussion piece. I'm not expecting reaction, but just to share my thoughts. Thank you.
Warden, please.
Thank you. So I'm a simple guy, so you need a plan with numbers, and I agree with you, and I agree with my friend from Petawawa as well, in terms of there is some partnerships there, and that's why I think the bullet points are important, because they talk, wrong device, can't use my finger to pull it down. So I think it's important to get the plan with the numbers, and then there may be partnerships and opportunities because of funding, like the Accelerator Fund, which great fund, but they just didn't make it broad enough for funding to move forward. And the second piece is, as soon as we know the numbers, that allows us to then make some effort to try and find funding, because we've had a good relationship with our staff, with the ministry, about being able to move money around or do things. So there might be some conversation there. Then again, that is also the opportunity for us and our neighbors to then pull the numbers together in support of 7 and 7. So that's why we've taken such a strong role in supporting 7 and 7 and driving it as best we can from here internally, is because I think it's part of the solution, and we have to know our numbers, because I think the proposal is something like 627 units. I can't remember. I made so many presentations now. There's 6 districts and the numbers run together. So we think we would know what the numbers are, but we know from the update that we had 3 weeks ago, Craig, where we're proposing it's 7 and 7, so 7,000 plus 21,000 makes 28. We think the actual need is 38,000 as opposed to 28,000. So, you know, we may not be meeting the need, but we'll be certainly taking the edge off it. So I agree with you. The plan is the most important piece to get the numbers. Then that can drive our own internal strategy. And so I think the bullet points talk about that. It talks about, you know, and one of the strategies might be selling some of our properties off and reinvesting that money into new units, because I think the agreement is we can't dip below our number long-term. Short-term we can as we move stuff around, is how I understand it. So there's some nuances, but I think there's a way forward once we have the numbers.
Did you want to, Director Lapine, please?
Thank you, and through you, Chair, to the board. It's an important document for all of us because the last one was done over 10 years ago, and what it does is it charts our course for the next 10 years. So it becomes a highly consultative process, and what we knew 10 years ago is very different than what we know now. And I think some of the comments really, and the bullets reflect that. When we had housing downloaded to the County of Renfrew, it was bricks and mortars and rent geared to income housing. And over the many years, we've really seen a change in the kind of programs. So the ministry hasn't funded, like what the 1,020 units that we were given back in, 21 years ago, are the same number of units we have today. But that's rent geared to income. What they've done is they've improved in terms of rent supplement programs and other kinds of programs to help people who are on this wait list. So I think taking a look at where we are today is going to be really important in terms of where we go for the next 10 years. And I think there's a distinction between building rent geared to income housing and affordable and attainable housing. And I think we need to really understand what that looks like, because there are financial implications on both sides for this board to consider. And those financial implications really do tie us. For example, if we build more rent geared to income housing, there's a big financial price tag attached to that, whereas affordable housing has a different price tag. So I think we need to have a full fleshing out of what our community needs. And I don't know that, I think a consultant will be able to identify that, this is the area that you need to work towards. And it may not be a number for one, it may be several numbers across the continuum of housing, which I think is what we're looking forward to seeing. Because I've called up the former 10-year plan, and while we are still delivering much of that, we are delivering a whole lot more, and we have a need for a lot more. So I think the plan that we're going to have come forward, and it has been the history when we had our 5-year update and the addendum, this board is consulted, and you will have an opportunity again. It is our hope that when we do take this out, that there's a high consultation process and a real understanding of where the money is. And the other thing is, this person, hopefully, or this firm will also know where the other monies are out there. So while we have our finger on the pulse, we don't have the long-range vision right yet, and we really need to hone that in. I thank you for the opportunity. Thank you.
Any other discussion? Warden Emo, please.
And just a little, and the director was way too kind. When we had the housing portfolio dropped into our lap in 2000, I got here in 2006. We had a building condition assessment completed in all of the buildings in the stock, and it was horrifying in terms of, and so we've had a pretty significant investment to bring them up to a standard that's acceptable over the last nearly 20 years now. It was pretty aggressive. Windows, doors, roofs, insulation, natural gas appliances instead of electric, heating's changed. We've got replaced all of the fridges and stoves, replaced most of the kitchens, I believe, as well, and the floors. And so it's been a very aggressive program. And at some point, we may want to tally that up just to, and it might be something to show the level of investment. And we've had good money. I think it's from Chippy. I can't remember what the accounts were at the time, but we've had good investment from the province. But we had to match that in a lot of times. So the stock we got was not as well maintained as we would have liked, and not as current, but it is now. I think we've got it to a very acceptable level. And we've added security cameras and other different functions which weren't part of the 2000 download. So. I think it's easy for us to look back and say, oh, we should have done more and put more units in place. But I think what we've done is solidified the units we have, and with the one that we tore down and made a duplex, so we've actually added one, which we should be proud of. And then what we're doing in Douglas as well. So just a little bit of context. It's been a challenging portfolio, not a difficult one to maintain.
Any other comments? Please.
Thank you, Chair. Through you, I just want to say that I'm pleased to see the last bullet, supportive housing services for tenants that require additional supports. The warden and I had the good fortune to attend a Zoom meeting with some individuals from Developmental Services Ontario, as well as several parents from the local area who had special needs children who are now in their 20s and their 30s. And there's two things that are happening here. A lot of these children, well, they're not children anymore, they're adults, want to go out and live on their own, but they require supports to do so. And the other thing that's happening is the parents are getting older and are no longer able to support a grown adult in their house. So it's great that this is there, and it really opened our eyes to the fact that there are quite a few individuals in the county that require this type of housing. And are we providing a suitable amount, and do we have the suitable number of supports to accommodate all these individuals? So I'm glad to see that there, and hopefully that's a key item that gets looked at. Thanks.
Good, thank you. Any other comments? Warden, please.
Again, I'm sorry.
Nope.
Just what we did was we both made an ask of them that they try and give us a sense of the numbers and the variety of needs that might be necessary for some of the clientele, for some of that community. So they've said they would get back to us on a Renfrew County basis, but then also to me on the Warden's Caucus basis, so that we have a better number going across. What kind of supports are necessary? What kind of numbers? Rough estimates in terms of age ranges, and are there mobility issues and safety issues? So we're trying to get some data from that community. And I think they were sort of surprised we asked for it, because they also said they couldn't provide it. They didn't know what they had. So I think, that was a good focused discussion. So.
Any other comments or questions? Okay, so we have two recommended changes to the resolution. Do we need to read the changes before voting? So the first one is the word fostering in the third bullet.
Well, it just depends on whether you want to consider them a friendly amendment or if they're actually changing the scope. It's changing the scope of the recommendation. So you really should have a vote to amend the recommendation with the two new bullets, and then vote on the amendment, or vote on the new recommendation as a whole. Get me?
You're the expert here.
Oh, sure, I'm trying. So there, I heard there was two new bullets, or two new points added to this.
Not new, changes to existing bullet.
I thought there was okay, I just want to make sure that there weren't new. So if they're just minor changes.
Yeah, so is that a friendly?
We consider it a friendly amendment if they're just minor wording changes. I thought I had heard they wanted one additional one. That's what I had heard, but I could be hearing wrong.
Let's throw it to Gwen.
Pardon?
Let's throw it to Gwen.
Let's do a friendly amendment and just change the wording. How's that?
Okay.
Let's make it simple.
So what does that mean? Do we need to discuss this any further, or do I just call for the vote?
Well, you've already done that, but that's okay.
I know. I did that in the air.
That's right.
My bad.
That's okay. I believe Ms. Hill has already recorded the amendments to that. So if committee's okay with that, I would recommend, just for sake of doing it again, call for the vote based on those changes.
Okay.
Okay.
I'll call for the vote based on the two changes to the resolution. All in favor? Carried. Thank you. Okay, we'll continue on to resolution number 10, please.
Thank you. This resolution is regarding the annual rent increase guideline for 2024. The recommendation is that the Renfrew County Housing Corporation Board of Directors approve a 2.5% increase to the maximum rents of all units effective January 1st, 2024.
Could I get a mover and a seconder to put this on the floor? Moved by the councillor from Head Clare Mariah, seconded by Warden. Continue, please.
Thank you. As background information, this recommendation comes forward every year at this time, approximately in August. The 1 year that we did not have an increase was pandemic related, and that was when the province legislated no rent increases for 2020. For the upcoming year of 2024, in accordance with the Residential Tenancies Act, Ontario has set the maximum rent increase, and this is for all landlords, for 2024 at 2.5%. As a landlord, Renfrew County Housing Corporation is required to provide tenants with at least 90 days written notice of the landlord's intention to increase rent. Thus, it's timely that we bring the recommendation to the board this month in order to have adequate notice by January 1st. Also, I can note that the maximum rent increase does not impact all tenants, only a small part of the tenancies who are being charged the maximum rent amount. And those tenants would primarily be those who have incomes that surpass the subsidy cutoffs.
Any discussion or questions? Councillor from Petawawa, please.
Thank you, Chair. Through you, is there a subsequent increase of some kind to all of the support or assistance programs on an annual basis? Whether it's Ontario Works or any of the other rent subsidy programs?
Through you, sorry.
Go ahead, please.
Through you, Chair, to the board. No, there isn't. However, what I would like to point out is that this 2.5% increase that will impact those being charged maximum rent are for people whose income, well exceeds the rate of subsidy. At the same point, if we follow along in the next recommendation, there's an appendix that provides all of our rent charges, and we'll see that the rent amounts are well below what actual market rents are right now, especially well below for the rent amounts that would be required for people newly acquiring a unit to rent.
Any further questions or comments? Seeing none, I'll call for the vote. All in favor? Carried. Item number 11.
Thank
Go
you.
ahead, please.
So item number 11 is a second recommendation regarding rent increase in addition to the guideline amounts. The recommendation is that the Renfrew County Housing Corporation Board of Directors approve an increase to rent in the amount of $10 per month above the annual rent increase guideline for all units within the Renfrew County Housing Corporation portfolio, except for units at the following locations: Albert Street in Arnprior, Burwash Street in Arnprior, Russell Street in Arnprior, Francis, McLean, and George Avenue in Renfrew, as well as Allen Avenue and Archibald Avenue in Renfrew. And we just have over in brackets here that 2 of those properties are also referred to as Morin Heights, and you'll see that they are listed as Morin Heights in the corresponding attachment.
Can I get a mover and seconder to put this on the floor, please? Moved by the councillor from Killaloe, Haggerty and Richards, seconded by Warden Emo. Continue on, please.
Thank you. So I'll summarize the background information by starting with a little bit of history. In 2018, the Renfrew County Housing Corporation Board made the resolution, noted as Resolution RCHC C 180937, and that followed a staff proposal to increase rent amounts at apartment properties outside of Renfrew, Arnprior, and Pembroke. And the reason that recommendation came forward was that in comparison to apartments in the Pembroke, Renfrew, and Arnprior areas, the outlying area rents at the apartments were quite a bit lower. So we have now expired that period of time per the recommendation that led up to the end of 2023, or we will be expired very soon. So now was the appropriate time to analyze the rent amounts to see whether or not further changes are required. So when I began to analyze that, I took a look over at the apartments again, but then I widened the analysis to include all rent amounts within the Renfrew County Housing Corporation portfolio, and saw that there were substantial differences between certain areas. So the goal of this recommendation is to, on an annual basis, but recommend only on an annual basis, to take incremental steps to balance out the rent amounts so that eventually over the next several years they will sit at or just below the recommended HILS rent amounts. The HILS stands for Household Income Limit, and we use the household income limit in establishing rent geared to income eligibility, and this is based on bedroom size. So when we look at the board moving forward to approve this recommendation, please note that, again, this will only impact a small percentage of the overall caseload for RCHC. You'll see within the background information that there's a chart that provides a breakdown for the tenants that are currently at maximum rent as of August. I also just wanted to note that the HILS amount for rent is the amount that we use for max rent whenever a tenant doesn't qualify for rent subsidy and has had a change in their financial situation or a change in their lease requirements. So of the 104 that we see here reflected for August, I don't have the exact number, but a high percentage would already be at that HILS rate. So they will not see a big change to the maximum rent changes that this recommendation would look to implement. Thank you.
Any other questions or comments? None? I'll call for the vote. All in favor? Carried. Okay, could I get a mover and a seconder to accept the Manager of Housing and Homelessness monthly report? Moved by Councillor from Killaloe, Haggerty Richards, seconded by Councillor from Petawawa. All in favor? Carried. Thank you. There's no new business? There is?
If I could just ask Mr. Davis to provide just an update on Lee and Douglas Street, please, that'd be great. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Davis, please.
Good afternoon, and thanks again. So if I can, I'll try and share my screen for just a couple pictures, and I'll also highlight another platform that the county's been using called Zen City Engage. So we've talked about this a number of times where the county of Renfrew actually purchased Zen City, and what we do with Zen City is we highlight different projects. So what I'll do is I'll share my screen. And again, this application is available to all local municipalities through our program with Zen City. So what you see here is our splash page for Zen City, and what you see is active projects we have within the corporation. As we move forward, we have planning applications, et cetera, and you'll see some local municipalities will have their own applications and their own projects moving forward through the Zen City. So I highly recommend that each municipality has a chance to review this and actually use this application. As we move forward and down to the Lee and Douglas Street build, so just as a reminder, it's an 8-unit, 12-bedroom complex that we're successful for a number of grants for the build. And what we're at now is we finished the excavation and the foundational footings, and now we're at the bricks and mortar. We're actually building the above ground unit. So what you see here is during the Zen City. This is where we're at, a picture of last Friday for this complex. Again, this is the corner of Lee and Douglas in the city of Pembroke. And what you can do once you're in this Zen City application is look at different pictures at different updates. So this is the July update when we're pouring the foundation. So far, like I mentioned during the D&P report, we're at a point now where knock on wood, there shouldn't be any surprises that once we're at this stage of the build with the actual the wood being installed, we should be moving forward at a quick pace, and you'll see it all framed in by the end of the fall. But again, the completion date for this build is probably March of 2024. So thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Davis. Are there any questions or comments on this? Seeing none. Could I get a mover? Pursuant to Section 239 of the Municipal Act 2001 is amended for a proposed or pending acquisition or disposition of land. Can I get a mover and a seconder to go into closed? Moved by the councillor from Head Clare Mariah, seconded by councillor from Petawawa. All in favor? Carried. Thank you and welcome back. I will invite Director Lapine to read a recommendation, please.
Thank you, Chair, and through you to the board. The recommendation reads that the Renfrew County Housing Corporation Board of Directors directs staff to review opportunities with housing providers on the use of County of Renfrew and Renfrew County Housing Corporation owned lands and bring back to committee for updates and considerations. Thank you.
Could I get a mover and a seconder? Moved by Ward Nemo, seconded by the councillor from Whitewater Region. Any discussion, questions? Seeing none, I'll call for the vote. All in favor? Carried. Thank you. Okay. So, the date of the next meeting is Wednesday, September 13th. And could I get a mover and a seconder to adjourn? Moved by the councillor from Petawawa, seconded by councillor from Head Claremore. All in favor? Carried. Thank you, people. And we take a 5-minute break, or 10? 7.5? Okay, no more than 10. Good afternoon, thank you, and welcome to the Community Services Committee. I'd like to call to order this meeting. It is Wednesday, August 16th. Do we still have quorum, Wendy? Yeah. Yes, we do, thank you. Any disclosures of pecuniary interest and general nature thereof? None. Adoption of minutes. So could I get a mover and a seconder to adopt the previous meeting held on June 14th? Moved by the councillor from Petawawa, seconded by the councillor from Whitewater Region. All in favor? Carried. Delegations, there were none at time of mailing. Community Services Department, I invite Director Lapine to give the department report, please.
Thank you, and through you, Chair, my report begins on page 2 of your electronic package. Good afternoon. Information item number 1 is the Association of Municipalities of Ontario, the AMO Annual Conference Delegations. As you recall, back in May, County Council passed a resolution for approving some delegation requests for the AMO Conference. Very pleased to inform this committee that a delegation has been granted for the Ministry of Community, Children, Community and Social Services to speak about, the financial implications with the transition that's happening later this year and going to fully impact the Ontario Works program in 2024. So we're seeking a delegation to discuss the financial piece and a one-time transition grant, and then also an opportunity to speak with the Ministry of Education to talk about the number of space allocations that we've been granted through the Canada-wide early learning and childcare system. Item number 2 is the Treasurer's report. As you will see, on the Treasurer's report is on page 6. It's a mid-year report. It gives us an indication of where we're at. I would say that at this point in time, nothing is flagging as urgent or in any way, shape, or form something that we need to be very attentive to. We have some overspending and underspending in different areas, but this is not abnormal for this time of year. We should see some closer reconciliations as we get to the third quarter report, and at that point in time, if there's anything that really stands out, we'll be discussing it then. But at this point, we're not facing anything significant. Item number 3 is to let you know that the homelessness prevention program, the HPP investment plan that we submitted back in, I believe, March, early April, the letter has been received and it has been approved. Item number 4 is an information item again, and this is just a memo from Dr. Morgenstern regarding rapid antigen testing and locations of the rapid antigen testing throughout the county. Certainly, if any municipality is interested, the information contained in that memo would certainly be available should you want to be a site. Item number 5 is to talk to you about the Circle Canada meeting that was held back at the end of July. This was an opportunity for Circle Canada, the director and the manager, to come to our municipality, the County of Renfrew, and specifically to come to the town of Laurentian Hills and meet with the Mayor of Laurentian Hills, the Mayor of Head Clara Marai, and the Mayor of Deep River to talk about the employment services transformation that is taking place across the Kingston-Pembroke catchment area, which is going to take place in October. So they've been managing the programs, and as of October, they take on the full implementation of the programs. And it came up several years ago when this was first discussed in this committee that this was happening. It's been a multi-year plan. And at the time, the concern was that we are a large geography. We have a lot of space in between centers and concerns about service to folks that are more remote and not as urban as in other parts of the province. Circle Canada is based right now in Kingston, so it was an opportunity for them to come out, meet with us, get a sense of the county. They did have a fantastic day with us, and we had a fantastic day with them as well. And it feels like we've got a good partnership moving forward and a good opportunity to really help carve the way the employment services is going to be operating here in the County of Renfrew. It impacts our Ontario Works program immensely, as mentioned earlier, with the AMO delegation, the transformation of Employment Ontario and the employment services will have a financial impact and a program impact to the Ontario Works program. So this partnership is absolutely important and vital in terms of the success moving forward. Item number 6 is to let the committee know that Chair Giardini and I attended the Renfrew County Renfrew County District Health Unit Board of Directors meeting back in June. We provided an overview of the services a Community Services Committee provides in terms of their guidance and leadership, and the roles that the various programs in community services delivers. And it was a really good meeting. I think we went over time that day, but they had a lot of questions, and it was a great opportunity for them to hear more about what we do and the governance that exists within the committee and council. Item number 7 is an information item on a public forum on intimate partner violence. This was a really well-attended presentation back in June. Luke's Place, which is a nonprofit organization that came to Petawawa to deliver a one-day training and then have the public forum to coincide with the recommendations from the inquest back in June of last year on the deaths of Carol Culleton, Anastasia Kuziak, and Natalie Warmerdon. And there was quite a few of our community services staff in attendance, as well as people from across the county and actually Eastern Ontario who attended. And it was really an opportunity to hear what has been happening since the first report was released a year ago, and to have an opportunity for people in the community to share some personal experiences. There's a lot more work coming on this, and we will have more information moving forward to bring to this committee as we learn more as well. And I'll stop there, Chair. Thank you.
Thank you. We'll go back to the beginning of the information items. Questions on the AMO annual conference delegations? Any questions on that? I look forward to be part of 2 delegations for sure. I'm glad I'll have support with me, ready to answer all the questions. Okay, item number 2, Treasurer's Report. Any questions? Seeing none. Number 3, the Homelessness Prevention Program Investment Plan Approval. I had no doubt that this would be approved. Do they supply a template for further reporting? It says that you have to report 3 times a year and then a final report.
Thank you. Through you, Chair, there is a template. We actually have to use the Transfer Payment Ontario program, and that is submitted on time. Thank you.
Thank you. Any comments or questions on this? None. Number 4, the rapid antigen testing. I know that our municipality received the same memo from the health unit. Number 5, Serco Canada. Councillor from Petawawa, please.
Thank you, Chair. Through you. So I see that on October 1st, 2023, that the takeover will be complete. Are there any concerns, I guess, on that date and beyond in terms of them closing any of our facilities or affecting any of the employees in our area? And I guess really affecting the delivery of all the services in terms of on that day when they take over? Do you see it being a smooth transition?
Dr. Lepine.
Thank you, Chair, and through you to committee. We had a great discussion about those very things. They have actually been managing the Employment Ontario for most of this year, and they have assured us that there should be a seamless transition. They have a lot of really excellent ideas. Serco Canada currently runs the drive test in Ontario right now, and they're in a lot of different organizations. They actually talked about what they're doing now is relatively new for them as a large corporation. They're global, and they do have a lot of their employment programs happening in England that they want to bring some of the lessons over. But they also really like the current staffing model, the current program. So they are going to continue as far as what they told us with the current Employment Ontario structure and adding enhancements year over year. So we anticipate that it won't be a large adjustment for our staff in the Ontario Works program. There is an adjustment because we have to change the way we deliver services, and there's a lot of learning going on, a lot of changes going on, but we are feeling very confident that we'll be able to align for that. And hopefully in terms of the service provision, they heard very loud and clear when they attended the meeting in the town of Laurentian Hills that transportation is a huge barrier in our community, and they discovered it when they drove up from Toronto and Kingston and met us here in Pembroke first, and we had an opportunity to introduce them to some of the economic development staff as well, and then head to our next meeting, which was up in the town of Laurentian Hills. And while they were amazed at the beauty of the county, they really got the travel and transportation issue very clearly understood. And we felt very, I think, and I'm speaking, we have two of the mayors here, felt very supported by them in terms of taking back issues that they heard from the three mayors that they would try to work on. So I think, if anything, we're going to see some enhancements in the programs and program delivery. But we'll definitely keep you informed as part of Andrea's role as manager of Ontario Works. Her and her staff are involved every 2 weeks in meetings with Serco Canada and every month on a broader scale in terms of governance. So our goal is that, if there are changes that are anticipated or planned, that we bring that forward and that we're ready for it. So we're feeling very supported by what they have to say so far. Thank you.
Supplementary?
Yes, thanks. That's good to hear that you're feeling comfortable about the rollout. And just if I could get into a little more specifics, I guess, in terms of the 17 municipalities that we have. I know originally when we discussed their takeover, there was some talk about maybe some of the municipalities being close together, and that an institution would be closed in one municipality and be serviced by the other. So I guess that would be the biggest concern of most of the municipalities here, is that the location that they have presently would not be closed, and the residents be expected to drive to a nearby municipality. So if that was something that they were considering, that perhaps there would be some kind of public forum or public meeting before any type of that closure would take place.
Dr. Lupine.
Thank you, Chair, and through you to committee. It became very clear to us that they want to work on solutions and they don't want to rock the boat for the first little while. So it certainly sounds like they're working very closely with the current Employment Ontario partners. They have regular meetings with them as well. So it is our understanding that they're going to maintain what they have right now. Certainly from the experience that we've had with them since all of this began, and certainly in the last few months, is they're a very highly collaborative approach that they're taking. I would hope that continues, and that conversations around changes would come back to the community. The fact that they came out was a real good step, because they really wanted to hear what some of the issues are, and I think they heard them loud and clear, and they were quick to point out that it seems different here. While they're in other communities and they're covering the whole stretch from Kingston up to here, that every community is different, and they see what those differences are. So, hopefully that continues, but we have ongoing meetings with them as well, and at this point in time, there are no changes anticipated to the current services that are offered, other than enhancing those services. And we're hoping that they can do some of the thinking that they had expressed to us around transportation and finding a way to bring people for employment opportunities. We'll see what that leads to. Thank you.
I think it was very clear, their enthusiasm when they were at the meeting, and I think it was genius to have it out in Laurentian Hills. We could have even gone an extra half hour down to Head Clare Mariah, but they did. They were very empathetic or sympathetic to the travel issues, for sure. Yeah, I thought it was a great meeting. Councillor Grills, please.
I was quite insistent that they weren't at the end of the county of Renfrew when they got to Laurentian Hills. As it was, I was a little bit late myself, but it's at least another hour and a half for them to get to the end of Highway 17, County of Renfrew. So yes, I think they understood, and I also felt very welcomed, not only at your building, but also from Serco. We did it, I can't remember the term that was used, but it was sort of like we were dreaming in technicolor, but it didn't really mean that we couldn't do it, right? Because there's a lot of things we need, and transportation is the big one for Head Clare Mariah.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments? Okay. Number 6, presentation to the Renfrew County and District Health Unit Board of Directors. Warden Emo, please.
Thank you. It went extremely well. Thank you to both of you. And what I would add is I think the shock for the board members of the breadth of services that we offer and the extent of the involvement in the lives of people of our community that we undertake every day, I think was quite shocking to the board members. And so I would suggest that I know you're both busy, but if you wouldn't mind doing a road tour, all of our service provider partners, I think, we should get the information out as best we can on a regular basis, because there truly was shock in the room from some of the board members who sit on other boards or have been associated with other agencies for years as well. So it was, I think it was well worthwhile, and thank you. And again, this is a nice presentation that allows us to inform our councils with information, but then also other community members to take a look at as well. So as someone who does a lot of presentations, you often don't know if you've done well or if they'll never invite you back again. So, but you will get invited back again. It was very good. Thank you.
Thank you. It was interesting to see their reactions, especially when Laura was talking about all the services, and I think the new counselor's orientation handbook, because I got a lot of my information out of there. So it was really, it was good to be there. Okay. Number 7, public forum on intimate partner violence. Any questions? None? Okay, we'll go into resolutions, please.
Thank you, Chair, and through you to committee. Resolution item number 8. Intimate partner violence and violence against women. So the recommendation is that the Community Services Committee recommend the County Council endorses the following recommendations resulting from the Culleton, Kusiak, and Warmedon inquest jury recommendations as of June 28, 2022. Community Services set up a She Can Fund utilizing the Homelessness Prevention Program funding, which is HPP, allowing for grants per year of up to $5,000. This fund and the funding source to be reviewed annually. Community Services introduce annual staff training regarding intimate partner violence, and that this training be offered to other County of Renfrew departments to enhance their skill set when working within the community. Community Services create a routine screening process for applicants by asking people if they are currently or have recently experienced intimate partner violence, entering through Housing, Ontario Works, or Child Care Service entry points in order to streamline supports and services. Community Services Management participate on local boards and committees that focus on intimate partner violence activities in the community. And Community Services strike an in-house committee consisting of staff from Ontario Works, Community Housing, and Child Care and Early Years to review how intimate partner violence applicants access our services to ensure a seamless intimate partner violence focused approach.
Can I get a mover and a seconder to put this forward? Warden Emo, seconded by the councillor from Head Clare Mariah. You go with the background, please.
Thank you, Chair. So you may recall back in March at the meeting of County Council, we had a presentation by Joanne Brooks, who is a coordinator for the End Violence Against Women, EVA group for Renfrew County, and Lisa Ugama from the Anti-Human Trafficking Program Manager with Victim Services. And at that time, they presented information about the situation regarding intimate partner violence and the jury recommendations, and they were seeking an endorsement on recommendation number 1, which this council has passed. passed. I understand other councils across various jurisdictions within the County of Renfrew have also passed that declaring intimate partner violence and violence against women an epidemic. As a result of the County Council meeting, we were asked to come back through the Community Services Committee to identify some of the recommendations within the report that we could start to implement here at the County of Renfrew. So in front of you are the recommendations that we've gone through the report and felt that we could identify at this time as items that we could proceed with through our Community Services Department. Thank you.
Are there any questions or comments on this? No.
This is great. I like measured process and progress where you take a look at something and you implement what you can and you move things along. And I recognize, I personally would love to see us race out and implement all the recommendations as fast as we can. But I think when you take your time and do it right within the skill set of the organization and what our capacity is, it's more meaningful and it's more lasting. So I'm very happy to see this. I would ask that if you could keep an eye on the rest of the recommendations and what has been accomplished by the government, because I think at some point, maybe in October, if we could get a report, because that might form a delegation for us to say, look, you need, there's 6 more you could put in place quite simply without any cost. So I think, I think this may be an instance where we need to exert some political effort at Roma if there's not been much progress or more progress, and I shouldn't say much if there's not more progress by the federal and provincial governments. And I think, we could find some partnerships with Lanark County and some other areas as well at the same time. So if you wouldn't mind it, just to look ahead, this may be a time for some political effort. Thank you.
Yes, and I believe that these 5 points do address quite a few of the recommendations, right? It's not just one bullet ticks off another one. So a lot of it is education. Yeah, very good. Any other comments or questions on this? Okay, I'll call for the vote. All in favor? Carried. Carried. Okay, we'll go on to number 9, Child Care and Early Years Division report, please.
Thank you, Chair, and through you to committee. Good afternoon. The Child Care and Early Years report begins on page 25 of your package. Information item number 1 is the inclusion services statistics, which are showing our inclusion services caseload numbers up until the end of June of 2023. Information item number 2 are licensed home childcare statistics. This chart shows the statistics for the County of Renfrew Licensed Home Childcare Agency, which is directly operated by our staff. We currently have 7 homes open, serving 45 children, and our licensed home visitors continue to promote licensed home childcare as a beneficial option to help the need in communities that we serve. Information item number 3, licensed childcare statistics. Just a few things to note on this chart. As mentioned in previous committee meetings, licensed capacity is the total number of spaces that the child care centers in the County of Renfrew are licensed for, while the operating capacity is the number of spaces that are actually operational at this time. You will notice on this chart that in April there was an increase of both the licensed and operating capacity numbers, and this is because of the opening of Bamunzi Daycare in Petawawa at Herman Street Public School. Also, as mentioned in previous committee meetings, there is a disparity between the numbers of licensed and operating capacity, and there are a few factors that we know affect this. The 2 licensed home childcare agencies in the county have a combined licensed capacity of 390, whereas the operating capacity at this time is 66. And as mentioned earlier, just a few minutes ago, the licensed home childcare option is always being promoted within the county, so we hope that there can be growth there. As another factor, many of the childcare agencies are still experiencing staffing and workload issues, which affects the number of rooms that they can have open and therefore the number of children that they can serve. Information item number 4, new Francophone licensed childcare center. So we want to share the news that the new Francophone Catholic Elementary School in Arnprior is looking to open within the next few weeks, which includes a childcare center within that is applying for a license of 140 spaces, which is a good news story. The agency that will be running the childcare center is Centre Éducatif Cours de Jeunes, and this agency has other childcare centers operational in Canada, as well as they run the childcare center in Pembroke at Equinox School. So we already have been working with them as service system manager, and will continue in that capacity at the new location in Arnprior, which will be called Centre Éducatif Cours des Jeunes de Rivière. Just to add as well, and you may have noticed if you've driven down Pembroke Street any time in the past few months, you may have noticed some major work being done at Equinox School. They are, part of that expansion is expanding the Francophone Childcare Center that is already there, which will result in a higher number of spaces as well. And that project is hoped to be completed by the end of the year. Information item number 5, North Renfrew Early On Child and Family Center. So the town of Deep River forwarded the attached letter from Lana Thomas to the county regarding some space concerns that they're having with their early on programming. Our staff were aware of the concerns, as we do have regular communication with all of the early on management teams in the county as part of our work as service system manager. There are limitations as to what we can do in this role in this situation, as we don't secure space for the programs, but we certainly will continue to help guide and support wherever we can. And that concludes my report, Chair.
Thank you. We'll go back to item number 1. Any comments or questions on inclusion of services statistics? Seeing none. Number 2, licensed home childcare stats. Item 3, licensed childcare statistics. Warden Yvonne, please.
I'm sorry, I blinked and I think my ears closed. When you're talking about the difference between licensed capacity and operating capacity, could you just give me a little more on that and repeat what you said? Because I didn't track it.
Go ahead, please.
Through you, Chair, to committee, thank you for the question. So licensed capacity is the number of spaces that a center gets a license for, and the operating capacity is the number of spaces that actually have children in the space at this time. So there's often a disparity where many of the centers may not be at their full license capacity, and for the number of reasons that I was talking about earlier.
Thank you. For some reason, I thought it was some kind of systematic thing, and I went the wrong way. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Okay. Oh, sorry. Councillor from Whitewater, please.
Thank you, Chair. And I just wanted to double check. I know it's part of the delegation next week, but currently we have 341 children being served with fee subsidy. Our allocation takes us up to a maximum of 421 over the next 4 years. Is that correct? Sorry. Yeah.
Go ahead, please.
Through you, Chair, to committee. So no, this is a bit of a different scenario. So the fee subsidy is a program where eligible families may receive subsidy for their childcare fees. I think you're talking about the 427 new spaces through CWELC that we've been allocated. So that's not the same, it's not in regard to the same number. We definitely have more room within our fee subsidy program to increase. It's finding the spaces, right? But the 427 spaces are for Canada-wide early learning and childcare. That's for brand new spaces.
Supplementary?
Good, thank you, Chair. So just to be clear, that 427 would be added on to the licensed capacity?
That's right.
So it's currently 2,363. It could be up to 2,800.
as new centers and new spaces open, yes.
Yeah, perfect. Thank you.
Okay. Item number 4, new Francophone licensed childcare center. Word name, please.
And I'm sorry, that just triggered a question for number 3. So with that number, 2,800, rough guess, and so I can't remember our population statistics, but at some point, can you just come back to us just so we know what kind of percentage that is out of our, because Stats Canada, I was going to say that I think we have about 6,000 kids under the age of 5, but I can't remember the exact number, but just at some point, if you can throw that out to us. No urgency. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. So any questions on the new Francophone licensed childcare center? Seeing none. Number 5, North Renfrew Early On Child and Family Center. None. Okay. Then we'll go on to the Ontario Works Division report, please.
Thank you, Chair, and through you to committee. Good afternoon, members of Community Services Committee. My report starts on page 29 of your package. Information item number 1 is the Ontario Works caseload statistics. The caseload has been quite static over the last quarter. Item number 2 is an update on centralized intake. So just a bit of brief history on this item so you know where we've been and where this is heading. Back in 2020, our ministry introduced a number of changes to modernize the delivery of social assistance programs in Ontario. And one of the initiatives that they proposed was to centralize the intake for both Ontario Works and Ontario Disability Support Program applications through the province. So prior to 2020, all municipalities managed their own intake and did all of their own eligibility determination. We were one of the municipalities of the 7 that initially piloted centralized intake back in 2020, and we were very involved with meetings and part of the joint project team to work on helping to enhance this initiative and to move it forward. And over the past 3 years, they've slowly, in stages, onboarded the rest of the municipalities into centralized intake. So as of the early part of 2023, they onboarded Toronto and the last couple of municipalities. So this is no longer a pilot, but centralized intake is now in place for all Ontario Works and ODSP across Ontario. This item introduces for you that the ministry has formed what's called a centralized intake collaborative and strategic table in June. They want to work with municipalities in order to continue to improve centralized intake and improve some of the connections with our computer system and have things work in a more effective manner. When they originally introduced centralized intake, the province's goal was to have 70% of applications be able to be granted centrally and only 30% be returned to the local offices. But currently, we're at about 40 or 50% of applications are granted centrally, and the remainder are directed back to local offices. So this is, we're pleased to see this collaborative and strategic table that has been formed, and we will certainly be participating on it and working with the province to continue to enhance the efficacy of this initiative. It's part of what many service managers are, speaking about and talking to the province about, because as Director Lepine had commented, there are some, funding changes coming for our program next year, and part of this work around eligibility determination and initial application processing is to be uploaded to the province, but they're not quite at where they hope to be. So we will hope to work with them and continue to see a greater number of applications be able to be granted centrally. At this time, we have like many municipalities, not really been able to realign our staff fully because we still have a lot of eligibility determination as well as a lot of work in the areas of person-centered supports. Item number 3 is regarding My Benefits integration with the social assistance digital application. So this here as well is to update this committee on some of the technological changes that the province is making. This as well was part of their goal 3 years ago to provide more digital and self-serve options for clients and make it easier for them to access services without having to come into the local offices. They have made a lot of progress in that area. Definitely, very pleased to report that many of our clients are choosing to access many of these digital channels to contact our office. I think with the challenges that we've talked about with transportation, if individuals are able to send things in to us electronically and text and email and send things in digitally, it certainly makes things a lot easier for them than having to find rides into the office. So currently we have My Benefits, which is a tool that active recipients are able to do a number of things in terms of self-managing their file, so they can, rather than bringing in a pay stub or a rent report or other document, they can take a picture of it and send it in through My Benefits, and then our caseworkers have incoming information that they can then review and accept into SAMS. So this further merge, which happened over this past weekend, was to allow applicants to sign up for My Benefits right away before being granted, so that they can complete their digital application through My Benefits, and they can provide documentation to determine their eligibility electronically and to better align the products so that they look and feel the same and that they're very easy to use. So certainly, it has changed over the past 2 to 3 years, sort of how things look and feel in our office. There's not as much of the walk-in traffic and people coming in to drop things off. There's a lot of things coming in electronically, digitally. We are able to have applications and update forms sent out for digital signatures, as opposed to coming in and having people have to get a ride into the office to sign things. So I think this has been really positive, and the work that they've done to enhance their digital service options for clients has been really positive. Item number 4 is regarding some Ontario Works staff training. I'm really pleased to let this committee know that we were very fortunate on June 12th to have Francois Mathieu, who's one of the world's leading experts on secondary trauma, come to this building and deliver an in-person training session for all Ontario Works staff. She provided information on secondary trauma, compassion fatigue, and how to debrief safely. We were very lucky to be able to have her come in person. She's all over the world, but she was fortunately booked a long time ago to go and do a three-day training with the OPP in Calabogie, so she was able to sneak this way a day early and deliver some in-person training for our staff. So that was very nice for our staff, very well received. We learned a lot, and it was certainly felt by our management team and our employment services transformation lead that this would be a really important training to bring to our staff prior to the employment services transformation, coming on October 1st. When we see that transformation, our staff will be doing even more work, digging deeper into some of the issues and challenges that people that are coming to us are facing. There's some very detailed assessments that they'll be completing with individuals and exploring some of the health challenges or traumas that they've experienced. So felt it was really important to make sure that our staff were well prepared and that we ensure that they have appropriate self-care when moving into even more of that realm of the work. Item number 5 is regarding an addictions treatment service presentation that we all had virtually on the 21st of June. Eve Arsenault, who's one of the addictions counselors from ATS, was able to attend and provide information to all of our staff about their services. They provide treatment and counseling on all forms of addictions, so alcohol, drugs, as well as process addictions, which could include gambling, work, exercise. They also have some friends and family programs, and they provide aftercare services for individuals who have attended residential treatment. It was a very informative presentation. We did learn from Mr. Arsenault that post-COVID, their waiting lists to access services have increased significantly. Prior to COVID, they could get people in in about a 2-week window, and now they're looking at a minimum of 3-month wait for services. So certainly all community services staff do their best to support individuals while they're waiting to access the treatment programs and other services that they need in the community. And would you like me to pause there, Chair, before the bylaws?
Yes, please. We'll go back to the information items. Any questions on number 1, the Ontario Works caseload statistics? Number 2, centralized intake update. Number 3, the My Benefits SADA, Social Assistance Digital Application Integration. Number 4, Ontario Works staff training. I think this is very important, and good to hear that you're getting some support and training. Number 5, the addictions treatment service presentation. Seeing none, would you please go ahead with the bylaws?
Thank you, Chair. And through you to the committee, may I go ahead and read the recommendation? Thank you. So amendment to bylaw 100-20, Ontario Works Policies and Procedures. Recommendation is that the Community Services Committee recommends to County Council that bylaw 100-20, authorizing the County of Renfrew to establish Ontario Works policies and procedures, be amended to replace policy OW1, internal control measures, and policy OW2, funerals.
Can I get a mover and a seconder, please, to put this on the floor? Moved by the councillor from Whitewater, seconded by the councillor from Killaloe, Haggerty, and Richards. Go ahead, please.
Thank you, Chair, and through you to committee. So as mentioned in the report, we have over 900 Ontario Works directives that govern very specifically how we deliver the program. There is not a lot of opportunity or room for any municipal discretion. However, where there is some room is in the 2 areas that you have in front of you here, and where we do have that, we have policies to guide staff in those areas. So the first policy, Ontario OW1, internal control measures, is a policy that was created with the assistance of our treasurer, Mr. Foss, as well as the county auditor, outlining a number of the financial controls that are in place for issuing payments within Ontario Works. This policy required updating because some of the procedures have changed, and specifically we have removed the section that spoke to manual check production within the Ontario Works office. So previously we could produce a manual check. We no longer do that, and the reason for that is because they did build into SAMS, which is the provincial technology, the ability to issue a real-time check. Most of our checks are produced overnight. There's processing through the province and through technology in an overnight batch, but we do have the ability to issue a real-time payment. So where there's a local emergency, we can issue and print a payment within 5 minutes of the need. So that ability being formed into SAMS did replace and eliminate our need for manual checks. So this updates to the policy is just to reflect that change, and I'll let this committee know that Mr. Foss has reviewed these changes as well to this policy. The second change is for the policy OW2, the funerals. We spoke about this, I believe, a few meetings ago, and the warden had very astutely noted that we hadn't seen an increase to our funeral benefit in a few years. It was actually the rate was increased back in 2018, and we know that all of the costs of living are increasing, and I wanted to bring this back to this committee to propose an increase. We are recommending an increase in the maximum funeral benefit from $4,000 to $4,500. I do recognize that that is not a large increase. However, I'm proposing that we start with a modest increase. We do have discretionary benefit maximums that are set by the province, and I'm comfortable with a modest increase. I'd like to monitor it and over the next year, see how our budgets look, and we may be able to bring back next year a further increase. So I'll pause there, Chair, but I'm happy to answer any questions that the committee may have.
Okay, do we have any questions or comments on this? Warden Emo, please.
I'm very happy with this and the funeral side and the you know, the moderated approach. I'm a big fan of that, so that's great. Just a quick question on the next of kin thing under procedure. I'm aware in the past of people who did not have a next of kin or did have a minor who was a next of kin, so that meant there was no funding, and it was a struggle to try and get. Is there a discretionary track within Ontario Works for someone like me in my former profession could swear an affidavit to, you know, to trigger the funding for this? Because we had a real tough time getting funeral benefits or getting this person interred in a respectful manner. So I can think of 2 episodes over about 20 years, and it was because the person only had a minor in one instance, and another instance didn't have any family close by, and the family that were distant wanted nothing to do with them, to be indelicate. So I'm just curious. And I don't remember how it was resolved, to be honest with you. That's the unfair part of this.
Through you, Chair, to Warden Eamon and the committee, you have a better memory than me because I'm not remembering any issues with next of kin that I can think of. But certainly our staff work really closely with the funeral homes, and in a situation where there are, you know, unique situations, we would do everything we can to find a way to help make sure that the person, you know, can be, you know, the remains can be dealt with in a respectful manner, and that individuals are getting the services that they need.
Yeah, I do remember I had to work to stretch the rules to allow me to do an affidavit, so it was an interesting process.
We're good? Any other comments? Councillor from Killaloe, Haggerty, and Richards, please.
I know the cap is going from 4,000 to 4,500. Do we hit the cap every funeral? Like, does it go to 4,000?
Through you to Councillor Mayville, Chair. No, we do not hit the cap every time. Sometimes we do, often we do, sometimes we go over, but we don't always. It depends on, some of it is which funeral home they're dealing with, some of it is the number of services they want provided, some of it depends on, you know, cremation versus burial. There's a number of different factors, so we're not all the time running up to the maximum. But it is an area that we'd like to see increase so that, you know, for those individual circumstances where it is exceeding, that we are able to cover the full cost.
Any other comments or questions? Seeing none, I'll call for the vote. All in favor? Carried. Could I get a mover and a seconder to accept the Community Services Department reports? Moved by the councillor from Killaloe, Haggerty, Richards, seconded by councillor from Head Claire Mariah. All in favor? Carried. Is there any new business? None? Closed meeting, there is nothing for a closed meeting. The date of the next meeting is Wednesday, September 13th. Can I get a mover and a seconder to adjourn, please? Moved by an enthusiastic Warden Emo, seconded by councillor from Whitewater Region. All in favor? Carried. We are adjourned. Thank you.